called a lot of bitches out in the spiritual community. Yeah, we're going there. Just to recap, episode 1 and emphasize the point. Rubbing rose quartz all over your breasts or whatever, or like using a rose. Well, actually, a gua sha would help move that. Like, that's actually helpful. But yeah, using rose quartz and 432 hertz and just treating it like it's a fucking cure-all is not going to do anything. And moral of episode 1, we are very pro bodily autonomy on this channel, in my community. If you don't like it, go find another community where, wow, this is so sad. Yeah, go find another community because this may not be the one for you. We're pro bodily autonomy when it comes to breastfeeding, so it's a choice. And there was something else I wanted to say. Oh, fed is best. Breastfeeding is a choice. Fed is best. And I don't do New Year's resolutions for myself, but I think we're gonna do one for the collective. If you saw hair, yeah, postpartum hair loss is still with me, okay? I'm 15 months postpartum and hair loss is still my homegirl, apparently. And fed will forever be best. And I don't feel like I have to explain that. I hope I don't. The only thing I will say is that my resolution for the collective of mothers, the collective of people supporting mothers, is that you don't need to explain to anyone. You don't need to justify how you feed your baby. You don't. Even to the pediatrician. I even remember one of the pediatricians I did see my baby that was like, we were discussing formula options because that's what we were doing. He's a toddler now, so that's not applicable anymore, but they were like, well, it's, you know, the kind of formula you feed your child is a choice. That was like the one time they were encouraging of choice. And yeah, you don't have to explain to anyone what kind of formula you use, why you use it. From a place of people pleasing, obviously, if your child has allergies and they're in someone else's care, that person should know your child has allergies. From like an informed caregiving place, I'm speaking from like a people pleasing place. We do not over explain, okay? An over explanation on not over explaining to just drive the point home. Because really, like, what the fuck? I'm making my bed right now. So episode 2. I really pray, hope, calling this in, watch this before you have a child, before you start breastfeeding, while you're planning for a child. Episode 2, God, let's just get it in here. So long-winded. This is one of the most important things I deeply wish someone had told me when I was pregnant. And it's that breastfeeding is so emotional. It is so emotional. It is so driven by emotions. It's so related. Like, if people are going to talk about, bitches in the spiritual community are going to talk about the heart chakra, you need to talk about the trauma that's there. Because if you have trauma related to your heart chakra, whether that's trigger warning here, sexual trauma that your body received, okay? If it's that, it can be somatic, or let me rephrase, epigenetic. in the somatic body. And what epigenetic trauma is that it's trauma that is passed down from the lineage. So even if you never experienced any kind of sexual trauma to your breasts, if someone in your lineage, specifically your maternal lineage, it can impact your breastfeeding journey. And nobody tells you how emotion driven it is. And that is like the worst thing you could do to a mother. And let me explain. I even took classes on breastfeeding. Okay, like they were considered complimentary for other services I paid, but they're charging fucking hundreds of dollars for these fucking classes. And you know, they're talking about latch and positioning and colostrum versus mature milk, and like, yeah, that's all pretty, it's good to know, not dismissing that. And at the same fucking time, that's something I could have Google searched easily. Most of what I learned about breastfeeding and like fixing some, I'll call them technical issues, I learned from YouTube University. That's why I'm making this video, because you need to fucking know. And otherwise, I learned from other moms on the internet. Like, the shit that these so-called medical providers were supposed to prepare me for really didn't prepare me. And so it is extremely emotional. So much so that if you are experiencing stress can obliterate your milk supply. Decimate it, leave you with nothing. I've experienced it. I've heard other moms experience it. So it's very important that you have ways to cope with stress, to manage stress, to have support. And unironically, breastfeeding can get really stressful if there's any kind of complication. And even if there aren't complications, the stress of sleep deprivation alone is enough. That'll do it, especially if you're exclusively feeding at the breast, you know, on your body. Yeah, you will be really fucking tired, and that shit can really fucking hit you hard. And so your emotional health, epigenetic trauma, trauma in your current incarnation, right? Epigenetic, I feel like epigenetic could be past life. That wasn't my experience personally. I mean, with this child, right? Each birth, each child, each one is their own unique experience. So I suppose you could throw that in there. And this is not to say like you need to go through all your past lives and like sort everything and like I'll do your reading. Like no. This is more of tune in with yourself and really sit with yourself around this, because it's important. And right, if breastfeeding is so emotional and the language we're even using around breastfeeding is success and failure, yeah, you really didn't put any pressure on these mothers at all, and you didn't make them identify as like worthless and horrible and a literal failure for not feeding their baby a certain way. And so that's, if for those of you who have kids may know this, but for those of you that don't, skin to skin is when baby is placed just diaper only, or I think there's like these special absorbent cloths so that if baby pees, it doesn't, spread everywhere. And that's skin. So skin to skin promotes oxytocin. Oxytocin is the love hormone. That's what gets the milk to come out. When you're stressed, you've got cortisol and adrenaline running, your body's like, oh, we're not safe. We can't do that. So looking at safety wounds, 1111, numbers don't lie. If you're looking at safety wounds, if you're looking at, what else is really, this is really important. So I have been getting deeper into like womb health and specifically like cervical healing. And I feel like that's really another episode. However, your heart and yoni, pussy, vagina, yoni. Do I have other words? Not at the moment. They're interconnected. They are both energetically and physically. The vagus nerve is what connects them. In a female body, the root of the vagus nerve is actually the cervix. So, that being said, if there is any trauma to your cervix, you may feel that in your heart chakra, your breasts. And right, women energetically are meant to open when they feel safe. If you don't feel safe, you're not going to open. And that's, I guess we'll share a little bit around my journey. I didn't feel safe. Some of this was like shadow work that was coming up during pregnancy. Others of this, other factors of this were because of my birth. I've developed PTSD from what happened, and that will be another episode. But yeah, I could not breastfeed for the first month, roughly. And that was because I was mentally, emotionally I was going through a lot of trauma, mentally and emotionally. And of course, like I really wasn't okay. And I didn't know how to cope. And nothing like bad happened per se. I wasn't supported, and I didn't even know how to ask for support because I couldn't even tell you what I was really going through. Everyone made it seem like, well, yeah, you're sleep deprived, you're tired, it's hard. Until I was like going through the process itself and like asking other moms, and like, no, this shit's really emotional. And it really bothers me that everyone talks about breastfeeding like the way it was described to me. Everyone's like, it's such a beautiful bond with your baby, and everyone makes it seem like it's that opening scene from Bambi, for those of you who have seen Bambi, and like the sun is rising, spring is here, the grass is greener, and life is just so beautiful, and all the baby animals are with the mama animals, and all of this beautiful new life, and it's just so beautiful. And yeah, you may have those blissful moments with your baby. I am not denying you that. You will. Whether you're breastfeeding or not. You could be formula feeding and have those blissful moments. And they don't tell you how hard it is. They don't tell you how so many emotions will come up. They won't explain to you like it's okay to feel sad even when you're breastfeeding. that you might have you might have some trauma come up. And we don't spiritually bypass here. And when I was going through this, I was like, wow, if this is my experience, what is the experience of like further marginalized women? What is this like for African American women? What is this like for undocumented women? I'm Latina, but I was born here, so that's not quite the exact same experience at all. And to then think like that it's okay to just breast is best. Is it? Is it when someone's having like mental breakdowns, fucking hyperventilating because they're about to feed their kid? And if anyone wants to talk about the energy of hyperventilating, having a panic attack, not feeling okay, not feeling safe, is going into that milk. The baby is receiving that. Just sit with that for a second. Like, this shit matters. So, breastfeeding is extremely emotional. And on that note, I feel called to share this too. And it is that I learned about this recently, and I'm still shook. I am still just because I wish I had known, I wish I had known when I was going through what I was going through. And I especially wish that I knew when I was pregnant, because this is just it's so good to know ahead of time. It prevents a lot of self judgment, and like, you already get enough shit from everyone else, even including partners. Sometimes partners think that they're being helpful, but they're not. And of course, like, discern, there are people that want to be helpful and they just don't know how, versus people who are sad, pathetic little creatures and think that it's okay to judge everyone because that's what they do to themselves all day. That's not what I said. So discern with the advice that you may receive, especially unsolicited advice. Ew. Where was I going? Oh, okay. This is so important. So there is this thing called letter D -MER, and it stands for Dysphoric milk ejection reflex. What this is instead, even if the oxytocin hormone is like rushing into the nervous system, to the rest of the body, some women do not experience that like high, so to say, right? Oxytocin is kind of like a high, if you were to think about it. I think what pharmaceutical, it's a drug. What pharmaceutical does that relate to? Is it Percocet? I don't know. It relates to some kind of, if we were to put it in a pill, right? There are literal drugs and you get a high from it, right? That is your body's inherent hormone for high. A good high, right? However, some women, I can't speak to the neurochemical aspect of this because I'm still researching it. I'm still learning a lot more. Some women experience dysphoric milk ejection reflex, and what this can look like is feelings of hopelessness and helplessness, anxiety, this need to like run away, what else? Feeling extremely irritable with baby at the breast. What else? Some do go as as far as like contemplating suicide, they may feel a little depressive. And I think there were a couple other symptoms. I'll type it out in the description box below, but can you imagine, to someone who doesn't know about this, and like she is getting all that shit talking from you name it, right? Family, friends, partner, medical team, pediatrician, oh my fucking God. To say, well, breast is best, so you need to try and let me show you how to latch. That's gonna be a whole other video. Oh my God. And to hear all of that, and maybe they're experiencing dysphoric milk ejection reflex. And I imagine this can relate to trauma. I experienced this at 8 months postpartum, so I managed to breastfeed. We supplemented with formula throughout our whole breastfeeding journey, but my baby was like at least half breastfed, if not 3/4 breastfed. But around that 8-month mark, I started developing dysphoric milk ejection reflex, and I didn't have a name for it. I chalked it up to sleep deprivation, just like everyone else. I'm like, well, I'm sleep deprived. It's really hard. I don't really have that many people helping me. I'm alone with the baby. Like, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me, right? 22. Yeah. If you know, you know. But this is another physical sign of it. I would start like tapping my foot or like tapping my hand or like fidgeting, and obviously I'm moving my hands a lot when I talk, but it was like, the best way I can describe it is when you're at the store and you're like impatiently tapping. It was like that. I had like an impatient fidget, an impatient tap, and I remember constantly like the thought going through my head was like, God, please make this stop. Whenever I would nurse my baby, like, God, just please make this stop. I can't keep doing this. It's like my skin would start to crawl when I fed him. I would want to vomit. Nausea and vomiting are another symptom of D-MER, dysphoric milk ejection reflex. What else? What other symptoms did I experience? I experienced not wanting to be around my baby. Before and after a feed, I would get, so maybe like an anxiety. I would just feel like, oh my God, I can't, I don't want to be in the same room. I don't want to be in the same room with him. Like, I can't do this. So yeah, like that urge to run away. And I cannot imagine as someone who is fresh from birth, like first 48 hours from birth, first 7 days, and you're going through this, and to just have people trying to force you to breastfeed and tell you about how magical and beautiful and amazing it is, and you can do it. Like, yes, you can, and it's fucking hard work. And it's okay to admit that it is extremely difficult. And I want to add, for anyone who may be going through this, it is a choice. My experience of dysphoric milk ejection reflex was so intense, and pumping already made me feel that way. Pumping has always like made my skin crawl. It had, oh great, my kid put something on my sweater. Let's just put this back. Pumping, I endured what I could, but I fucking hated it. I could not keep pumping. So he became fully formula fed from like 9 months. At 8 months, that's when I started having that experience, and so I weaned him. Yeah, I just think, like, I wonder how many people experience this, like, from day one, and, you know, they let people gaslight them into, you can do it, instead of, you can do it if you want to, and I can really tell that you're not okay, and you deserve to be okay. Because you being okay, you, in fact, thriving, is what's going to be best for you and baby. And right now, this doesn't look like thriving. So let's get you the support you need. Those are two entirely different perspectives. And yeah, I think I'm gonna end there. Maybe we can do a separate video on D-MER if that is helpful. That would be more supportive. I'm still learning about it, so if you want to post your questions, and I will do my own little deep dive and share my results. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, I think it's down there, and I am looking forward to our 3rd episode. Bye.